The scene in which Lex Luthor confronts Superman at the top of the X-Corp Tower is one of the most important scenes in the Batman vs Superman movie. Not only because it's the moment when Lex reveals that he is responsible for manipulating the entire chain of events that led Batman to fight against Superman, but because it tells us exactly what his reason is for his hatred towards the Kryptonian. And he does it through a philosophical problem that has existed for centuries, called the problem of evil, something that Lex literally mentions in the movie.
Of evil?
In the world. This problem is regularly used to deny the existence of God, at least as it is portrayed to us. Something that Zack Snyder used to represent the hatred of Lex, who represents an atheist, and Superman, who represents a divine figure. Unfortunately, this scene contains so much information that many things go unnoticed. But that's why I'm here, who apparently 4 years later I can't stop talking about Batman vs Superman. Welcome to Geek Beats, small doses of culture, geek vitamin for the mind. Today we will analyze the discourse of the problem of evil that Lex Luthor poses in Batman vs Superman. It turns out that each of these sentences carries a very important load within the movie, and in each one Lex seems to be against the concept of God, something that seems to be his central motivation and is related to the philosophical problem that Lex mentions in this scene. This problem has to do with the fact that several religions believe in the existence of a God who has three divine attributes. Omnipotence, which means he is all-powerful. Omnibenevolence, which means he is all good. And omniscience, which means he knows everything. So far everything is clear and going well. The problem arises when we realize that evil exists in the world, and that is something no one can deny. And this directly conflicts with the existence of a God with these three characteristics. Think of it this way. If God is all powerful, then he has the power to stop evil. If he knows everything, then he is aware that evil exists. And if he is all good, he would want to stop evil. So why doesn't he? The conclusion many people come to is that it's impossible for evil and a God with these three attributes to exist at the same time. So they decide that God does not exist.
That if God is all-powerful, he is not entirely good. And if he is entirely good, he cannot be all-powerful.
The movie Batman vs Superman not only mentions this problem of evil, but Lex tells Superman that this problem is really the cause of his resentment. Since no God saved Lex from his father's physical abuse, he now feels a great resentment towards divine figures like Superman and feels it is his duty to make other people see the boundaries of the world, that Superman is not the savior that many believe he is now. The question is Alex right? Could it be true that God and evil cannot exist at the same time? Over the years, many people have tried to justify the existence of a God with these three attributes, while at the same time justifying the existence of evil in the world. One of the most famous theories for this is the theory of free will. It turns out that this theory tells us that God created a world in which we are free to choose our actions, and this freedom is precisely what gives us the ability to choose to commit evil acts. If God made a world without freedom where we couldn't commit evil acts, then that world would be even worse than the one we already have, as this would mean that we are slaves in a certain way. This free will theory sounds pretty good. Unfortunately, it only works with one type of evil, one that we call moral evil. Moral evil is the one that we people commit through our actions. To give some examples, we have Lex Luthor kidnapping Superman's mom, Hitler and the Holocaust, and even aliens like General Zod trying to invade another planet. This is the type of evil we usually think about, but it turns out, philosophically speaking, there is also another type of evil called natural evil, which refers to earthquakes or floods or even accidents, things that we really are not to blame for, but that are bad and exist in the world. If little Timmy one day gets sucked up by a hurricane, well, free will has nothing to do with that. So why does God allow these things to exist? One thing I really like about the Batman vs Superman movie is that in it, Lex Luthor only mentions two of the three divine attributes. Something that does seem to solve this philosophical problem of evil. Let's look at it this way. If we take away his omnipotence, then perhaps he is not able to free us from evil. If we take away his omniscience, perhaps he is not aware of all the evil. And if we take away his omnibenevolence, then perhaps God is simply not interested in saving us. It's not the first time a superhero story deals with these themes, as this last point is very similar to what Alan Moore wanted to tell us in his comic Watchmen, in which the character of Dr. Manhattan represents an all-powerful figure who is in all times at the same time, but who is really not interested in saving humans or our world. However, in the case of Batman vs. Superman, Lex seems to go much further, as his plan seems to consist of everyone realizing that Superman does not possess any of the three divine qualities. If Superman doesn't save Martha or kill Batman, then he is not all-powerful. If Superman didn't find out that his own mother was kidnapped, then he doesn't know everything. Finally, if Superman kills Batman to save his mother, then he is not all good either.
And what do you think?
The truth is that Lex is right, and that's what makes his motivation so interesting. In fact, Zack Snyder was going to take this last point to a much more extreme degree, as he planned to film a shot of Superman ignoring thousands of voices asking for help in order to focus on saving his mother. Something that is quite human, but that is far removed from what the figure we know of God should be. This scene from the X-Corp gives us a lot of information about the motivation and way of thinking of the Lex Luthor. Unfortunately, I think Snyder gives too much information to process in very little time, so this scene does not have the impact it should have had. However, we cannot deny that there was a very ambitious and well thought out discourse in this scene.